Value lists in BubbleGum Simulator are quite possibly some of the most useful and most controversial trading tools that exist. There are two lists that I can think of that stand above all others. There is Kologish's value list and then Alpha GG's. There are other lists out there that obviously have their own merit, but these are the two that I am used to using, so I'm going to use them as an example in today's video, where I'm going to teach you guys how to use value lists and how to maybe just trade with a little bit more information. If you're excited and if this helps you out, please leave a like down below. Let's get into it because this is gonna be a little bit controversial. Hey, look, it's me, 62nd Magic Bus YT on the top daily bubbles. It is not often that I make it onto that list, guys. I am a casual. So let's quickly talk about people who don't use value lists. There are two types of people in the game that don't use value lists, or maybe three if you consider noobs. There are people who simply just don't know how. That's the third type. Like people who are new to the game or new to trading, they don't know how to use value lists. Then there's type 2, which are experienced traders that just disagree with the list. Sometimes they might glance at it to see where other people generally think pets are valued, and then they make their own judgment. These are usually very experienced players. And then the third kind of player who says value lists are garbage because basically they want to convince you that what they value the pet as is better than what the list values it as, so they can essentially scam you into giving them higher value by tricking you, essentially. They make you distrust the value list and trust them, and then they scam you, and they actually do follow the value list, and they're using that to determine whether or not they're getting a good trade from you and scamming you. So in today's video, particularly on Kologish's value list here, we're going to be looking at two things that are very important. So first off, the value, obviously, the value. But the thing that most people miss, and this is where a lot of bad trading happens, is people don't look at or consider the demand of pets, which I think is the big thing that will help you as a trader. If you're already using this list, but you're not looking at demands, you are probably going to make some bad trades. So we're going to talk about demand and value in a minute. First, let's get familiar with the value list itself. So obviously, everything is based off the value of the 2018 Overlord, which is the base value. That's what we consider everything against. Both lists use this as their base value. So one 2018 Overlord is worth 100%. So a Festivus that is worth 20%, that means 5 Festivus is worth a 2018 Overlord, because 5 times 2 is 10, so 5 times 20 is 100%. Pretty easy to sort of follow in that sense. It gets a little bit more complicated with these bigger pets. Obviously, most people that are doing this trading are using it for the value of secret pets, and something I think you have to realize, especially as a new trader, is if a secret pet is worth 175%, but you're only trading regular pets, you're not trading a secret pet, then you're going to have to pay more than 175%, because the demand for a secret pet is always going to be higher than the demand for limited rare pets or legendary pets. So let me explain the lingo a little bit here. Limiteds refer to typically the rarest legendary from an event egg. So Lucky Overlord, Queen Overlord. More recently, you would have seen the Toxic Shock, the Guardian Elemental, the Valentine Shock, the Radiant Protector. These were all the rarest pet from an event egg. These are referred to as limiteds, and that's exactly what they mean. The first two pets in those eggs typically do not matter. For example, the Radiant Protector is here, but that Green Guardian, I think it was the Crystal Guardian, it's not on the list because it's completely irrelevant when it comes to this stage of trading. So in the trading chat, when you see people refer to shiny limbs or shiny limiteds, these are typically the pets they're referring to, but they could also be referring to anything like prize pets, which is your Holy Shock, your Leviathan, your King Sol, seasonal pass pets, reward pets, so like your Lucky Top Hat was the most recent reward pet. A lot of you guys have the Overseer, that's a reward pet, but it's also referred to as a shiny limited pet because it was a limited time that that pet was available. The most important thing about these shiny limiteds is that if you're trading only shiny limiteds for a secret pet, you're gonna have to overpay because your shiny limiteds will never have the same demand as the the secret pet that you are trading for. Even though the Diamond Overlord has a high demand, that is not the same level of high demand as the dog cat, which is a secret pet that also has high demand. I hope that all makes sense. What I'm actually going to do is some mock trading to show you guys exactly what I mean. But when you do come to a value list like Kologish's, don't just consider the value, also consider the demand, and then possibly even, to sweeten the deal when trading, consider the shiny value and maybe try trading for and creating shiny versions of limited pets. Obviously, for example, the chocolate bunny, which I have a shiny version of, is worth 315%. And it has a very high demand. When I try and trade this along with other shiny limiteds for secret pets, I do get a lot of offers because it's just one of those pets that people want. And at the same time, use your own knowledge when you're playing and using the list as well. For example, the Dark Omen here has a high demand. Consider who is demanding them though. The Dark Omen is so common. There was a lot of them in the game. That event ran for a long time. But because the Dark Omen looks like an Overlord, even though it isn't, a lot of newer players hold it in high regard, and there is a high demand for it. When the reality is, if you're trading with someone who is like experienced, Dark Omen is not really high demand for those people. In fact, it's probably considered quite common. Very similar to the Radiant Protector. It is a completely unique model, so it's definitely higher demand. I would put Dark Omen honestly at average demand, and I would leave Radiant Protector at high. Also, before we get into the mock trading, this part is super important. Warning, please use your own judgment. For trades, value lists simply give an image or reference, not a definitive answer. And that is what I meant about the Type 2 who do not use value lists. They do and they do not. You can look at the value list to get an idea of where the community values things, but you should not trade just because the value list says it's a win. If you are trading shiny Radiant Protector, which is 350% for an OG Overlord, which one do you think is going to be easier to trade in the future? I mean, a shiny Radiant Protector with a couple of other shiny limiteds, you could trade that for something like a C-Star. But trying to trade off an OG Overlord is kind of difficult because it's a very specific kind of pet. Only certain people want it, and usually it is not something that you would put into a trade for another secret pet down the line because it just isn't very desirable. Right now, it says the demand is very high, and that's because the Overlord got bigger, but because that hype is now wearing off, people just don't really care again. The Overlord was up at 300%. It's back down at 175. Obviously, people just don't really care for this pet anymore. Alrighty guys, so now we're gonna do some mock trading with my alt account, Big Bubble Boy, because he currently has my King Mushroom, I believe. Alright, so here is the King Mushroom, which according to Alpha GG's value list is worth about 1,000%. Now, you need to consider also who you're trading with when doing this. So, right now, I know for a fact that my Chocolate Bunny is worth about 315%. He also has a relatively high demand. He was a rarer pet, there weren't as many people playing then, so this probably looks good to a trader. But, we also have the Radiant Protector, which is worth 350%. So that's 665% there. I can put a Toxic Shock in. There's 900%. But what if we put two more in? There's 900% just there. Then 1,200. This is 1,500%, okay? 1,500, which is 500% more than the King Mush is worth. But does that mean it is a good trade? The question comes down to exactly who you are trading, guys. So the value list currently values the Toxic Shock as very high. Is that because traders think it's worth a lot, or because the general community thinks it's worth a lot? And this is where value lists come into question. Myself, who found it very easy to get Toxic Shocks, doesn't value them at 300%. I wouldn't accept this trade. The Radiant Protector and the Toxic Shock are really new to the game. So many people have them. The general public or the average player, they consider it to be pretty high in value because it's a good pet to them. But to me, it was really easy to get. So if you're trading somebody for a secret pet who is a veteran or a long-time player, they're probably looking more for old, rarer, shiny limiteds like my Chocolate Bunny because it's older, right? There are less of them in the game, and that is where the allure is for these players. So no, I would not take this trade. This trade is just isn't good for me. I don't think these pets are worth the trade, so I wouldn't take it. But there are other things that I could offer that would sweeten the deal a little bit. Typically pets that require Robux to acquire or are just difficult to acquire in shinies are pretty good. So shiny Galactic Shock. Now this pet is 75% for a regular, 750%. So here is over 1,000% with just these two pets. Now I wouldn't take this, but I would be a lot closer to taking this because the Galactic Shock was a reward tier pet. A lot of players didn't get it, and to get 10 of them meant you either had to go through the trouble of trading or doing it on 10 different accounts. For example, I spent Robux. This cost me 5,000 Robux to make. So the pet itself has relative value because it was a little bit harder to get than just hatching eggs, and not everybody has one. And this is where personal experience and just discerning the way the community functions comes in handy, because these two, still not worth the King Mush, is a lot closer than my previous offer. So let's have a look at what else I have down here. Things like the Demon Core, because it costs Robux, that could sweeten the deal a little bit. I mean, like, that's looking like a decent trade. Still, this is a secret pet, way higher demand, so I would expect more than this. Always, these pets like your Dark Soul and your Angel of Darkness, these all carry relative values between 50 to 100% because they come limited. They're going to leave the game, and only people who completed the Bubble Pass actually got them, so there are a lot less of them in the game. So they could sweeten the deal a fair bit. The Lucky Top Hat is exactly the same, could sweeten the deal a fair bit with one of those, you know, maybe throw that in. You know, it's starting to look like I'm getting a pretty good deal here on this trade, you know? Like that, I may consider. You know, these two are doing most of the work, this is just additional stuff to really sweeten the deal. So maybe to sweeten the deal, I'd throw in, you know, like an extra elephant plushie, Diamond Overlord, and maybe a Dark Soul or something. It depends how skittish the guy is, you know? This feels like a massive overpay, but this is a secret pet. These people who are trading their secret pets for things that aren't secret pets, they're looking for overpays because the word secret right here makes its demand so much higher, and it makes it harder for players to let go of. So it's very important to remember that you're probably going to have to overpay if you're not offering a secret pet. Now, if I was going to offer a secret pet, I would probably be looking more along the lines of something like, say I was giving him an Owo Lord because that's my smaller secret pet that I own. These two together are good enough for the King Mush. Maybe I'd throw in like Top Hat or something like that just to sweeten the deal, or the Demon Core or something like that. Maybe just one more pet just to sweeten it a bit, but really it's a secret for a secret, so you've got a lot better chance of them accepting. So I hope this made sense. It's kind of hard to make a short video that explains how to use a value list, and the reality is that value lists are wrong. They're more of a reference list than a value list, and I think the demand is the most important tab on a value list. It lets you discern which pets are going to be easier to trade if you do trade for them. If you're trading shiny limiteds for a secret pet and you can give him very high demand pets that person you've traded them to is going to be able to turn them over and trade them for other stuff, you've got a way better chance of them accepting. There are also the players out there that do stat trades. These are almost always a scam because they're essentially asking you to disregard the value of your pets and look only at their stats. Now, if you're at the stage of the game where pet stats still really matter to you, you might not be ready for trading, or at least you might not be ready for secret pet trade, because a lot of the time you need to trade for a secret pet that doesn't have good stats but has a lot of value to then trade again for another secret pet. Best example is, of course, my Lord Shock. It's worth 1,500%, but its stats are pretty outdated now compared to the Mushroom that's worth 500% less. The Mushroom has way better stats. So in some cases, if you cared about stats, you wouldn't accept a Lord Shock for, you know, a good trade of shiny limited pets. If you don't care about stats, you can then trade for a Lord Shock because it has a high value, and then maybe trade that up again with other pets for something with good stats and high value. It's very much about knowing what you want out of the game and sort of trusting your gut instinct, and don't rely too heavily on the value list, but never let anybody tell you that a value list is wrong and you should make a trade because the value list is wrong. Even within 10 to 15% margin of error. If somebody tells you that your elephant plush is worth 50% when the value list says it's worth 60, that's probably fine. But if somebody tells you your elephant plush is worth 30% when when the value list says it's worth 60, that person's scamming you, and you should just trust the value list in that situation. Alrighty guys, leave any questions that you have in the comment section down below. I've cut bits up, I've re-recorded bits to try and make them clearer. I think this is the best way to explain the value list. So thank you all for watching. Leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below. I'll be replying to questions all day long. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow with a brand new video.